Welcome back. Now, South Africa is Africa is the most industrialized country, as you know, and it attracts thousands of foreign nationals every year seeking refuge from poverty, economic crises, war and government persecution in their home countries. And the influx of foreign nationals in South Africa has resulted in xenophobic violence, which often spread across the country. A number of reports have highlighted various issues contributing to xenophobia, such as poor service delivery and competition for resources. But immigration lawyer Gary Eisenberg believes that South Africa is facing institutionalized xenophobia, largely due to immigration laws introduced by the Department of Home Affairs. Government is now in the process, as you heard earlier, of introducing laws that would criminalize racism and xenophobia, which will include other forms of discrimination. Immigration lawyer Gary Eisenberg now joins us from Cape Town to give us an insight on South African law and how they could be improved. Gary, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
First and foremost, give us your reaction to the process of introducing these new laws that would criminalize xenophobia in South Africa, as the Minister just outlined.
First of all, I welcome these laws. They're very necessary. We're living in a divided society. But if you raise the question of what I'm talking about institutionalized xenophobia of government officials towards foreigners. And we see the manifestation of this xenophobia in the tremendous number of denials that we witness on a daily basis, not only myself, but my colleagues in the industry and foreigners who render their own applications, and the degree of aggression they meet at foreign South African missions. This must be a manifestation of xenophobia. What else can it be? And I don't believe that this new legislation is going to address that at all.
But are these proposed laws, they're not geared towards eliminating such and really promoting unity and social cohesion?
Well, absolutely, as they should. I want to point out that our Immigration Act, in its preamble, states what are South Africa's cardinal immigration objectives, and one of them is the eradication of xenophobia. And this has been in the preamble for many years now, but this has not stopped or constrained immigration officials, both in South Africa and posted abroad, from the kind of views they express to foreigners in the way they adjudicate applications and in the way they deal with foreigners at South African missions. So I would love to see, we're all waiting for this new legislation to get its teeth into the kind of phenomenon I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. So are you of the view, though, that the current laws are sufficient to stop the vagrancies of xenophobia and personal interaction, like you're talking, at the Home Affairs Department?
I think it'll take more than law. I've written about this extensively. One has to look at the evolution of South Africa's current immigration regime. I think it's going to change quite soon. The Green Paper has been put out by the Minister. Well done, Minister Gigaba, for that. Comments have not been fully collected. But if you look at the evolution of our current immigration policy, it started, I think, with Minister Dlamini Zuma when she was interim minister. A myth was created that South Africa, unlike most other countries, suffers from a human trafficking scourge. Posting figures of 30 to 45,000 incidences of human trafficking per year. These figures all turned out to be a damp squib, completely false. And Mavuso Msimang, the previous Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, has recently pointed out that South Africa's current policy is based on the spectre of human trafficking, which doesn't exist to the extent that our Department of Home Affairs claimed it to be, as well as national security threats. We don't know what that's about, but I think xenophobia has been given a voice and been given a physical manifestation based completely on false figures of unreality. And one questions the government as to why this was the case.
If it's institutionalized xenophobia, as you call it, that would mean that you are comfortable with the laws as it stand or the new ones that's being promoted.
Well, what I mean by institutionalized xenophobia, I've been in the business of immigration law as an immigration lawyer for the last 22 years. And I've seen an emergence of a xenophobia. And by xenophobia, I simply mean a dislike, a disregard, an aggression towards foreigners. I'm not speaking about racism in this country. I'm not speaking about xenophobia taking place in this country. I'm not even talking about xenophobic violence, the scourge of xenophobic violence that took place mostly in the townships beginning of last year and the year before and ongoing in certain places. I'm talking about an ongoing disregard and aggression towards foreigners in the mainstream, not towards refugees, not towards economic migrants, and I can understand where that comes from. It's a socioeconomic problem largely, but towards foreigners, towards investors, towards highly skilled workers. That's the type of xenophobia I'm talking about, and the fact that it's institutionalized, it seems to have gotten a grip on the minds and hearts of Home Affairs officials adjudicating their applications and those dealing with foreigners at the front counters or behind the scenes at South African foreign missions. Mm-hmm. And it's getting worse. That's the institutionalization word I use.
Now, the Deputy Minister earlier indicated that the new laws are there to make sure that people actually think twice what they say or what they do in terms of discrimination. So, are you suggesting perhaps that there should be a specific law that talks to institutionalized xenophobia?
Well, I think law would help, but it's going to be impossible for foreigners individually and collectively to try and enforce laws in South African courts or in our high courts and constitutional courts. Litigating against government is a very expensive an inconvenient affair. It's very difficult when the government has got a sort of blank checkbook to fight you on every front. I've been litigating for many, many years, and it's extremely tough to vindicate the rights of a single individual whose rights have been violated in terms of whatever legislation you want to talk about. I don't think it depends on legislation. I think it depends on education. And if the Minister of Home Affairs, working hand in hand with top immigration management, would educate their employees to deal with foreigners in a particular way. And I'm not only talking about officials, grassroots officials at Home Affairs offices throughout the country and at Home Affairs head office in the adjudication hub, but I'm also talking about those immigration consular officials which deal with foreign applications and foreigners at foreign missions. It's a question of education.
Gary, I thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Cape Town studios.
Great pleasure.
That was immigration lawyer Gary Eisenberg joining us from our Cape Town studios, giving us his perspective and an insight on South African laws and how they could be improved. It's not really about the laws, he says, it's about that interaction. He calls it, and I want to read it, institutionalized xenophobia. It's about people interaction one-on-one, and that is a problem. And he says education is key. But we're asking you that question, and